And here's where I messed up. Now we should be able to start it. All right. All right, welcome back to Later HP. And today I'm back on the Shelby GT500. In the previous video you saw me install this engine and transmission in, and I kind of struggled with it because it's really better just to lower the subframe and put it in that way, but I try to squeeze it in. If I didn't have the supercharger on here, which I didn't feel like removing for no reason, I would have been able to just squeeze it in there, but I ended up lowering the subframe, which is no big deal. But now the engine is in, and I'm still missing a couple parts here and there. The hardest thing about this build is getting the parts and getting them quick, because everything that we order, it takes at least a week to get, and some of the parts come in and they're wrong. Even though we use the VIN number to order through Ford, we're still getting the wrong parts. For example, this part right here that holds up the transmission to the chassis, this thing took about 3 to 4 weeks to get, because every time we order one for the VIN number for this vehicle, it would come in and it would say Shelby on it, but I believe they kept sending the Shelby GT350 for the manual transmission, because this one actually says GT500 and it's got the snake on it. So finally ended up contacting one of my friends that has a car like this, and he took a picture of it, and here's the part number. And hopefully this will get the transmission up in the air. That way we can install the cats and complete the exhaust and possibly run it. And also in the last video we had a crank no start, but that was actually my mistake, because I was missing the fuel line from the pump to the fuel rail here. It's a short line and I was completely missing it, and here's where I messed up. So I had a 2022 5.0 engine laying around the shop, and I had this hose on it from the high pressure fuel pump to the DI injectors, and I was like, I'll just use that for now just to get this thing started. I forgot that these hoses have restrictors in them because it's a high pressure fuel pump. So that was my mistake. I connected the hose and it was cranking, but it wasn't starting because there was no fuel going to the fuel rail or the injectors. The fuel was coming up to this restrictor inside here, if you can see, and it wasn't going past it, so it was completely dry, and that's why it wasn't starting. There is no inertia switch in these, I believe, at least not that I know of, but I know it will have a crash code or crash data in the BCM or PCM, I forget, which that code wasn't even in there. So there was no codes that was stopping the engine from running. It was just this simple mistake that I made using a high pressure fuel hose with the restrictor in it. So we actually got this thing running for a few seconds. Couldn't run it for long because I was missing some lines for the transmission, so it started dumping the transmission fluid. I was able to capture all of it, and so hopefully today I can put this bracket on, get the transmission up, put the cats on, possibly put the radiators in. Still missing a few parts, like this upper tie bar. If anyone has one off a GT500 2020 and up, I'd like to purchase it because they are specific GT500. The regular GT one does fit, and I bought one just for measurement purposes, and this is it right here. They just use a different material, and I would like to get this thing 100% to original, so I would like to buy that piece. So if anyone out there has this upper tie bar, and then the hood scoop or hood vent, also I will need one of those. I'd like to get the original. Maybe I'll go carbon fiber, I don't know, but I need the full assembly. I need the actual vent with the rain tray and everything, and then these I'm sure I could just get from the dealer. I'm missing those. This hood is repairable, it's just a little bit scuffed up. This is an easy fix, so there's no reason to replace the whole hood just because of that. Interior, I haven't put it together yet because I want to make sure this thing starts and everything like that. I wanted to make sure that the transmission is all connected right, and the cables and everything like that. So once that's settled, I'm gonna go ahead and put the interior together, and hopefully sometime next week this thing will actually go off to paint, and you know, the whole front clip is going to be painted. We were able to find a bumper, a complete bumper cover basically without the chin splitter, and it's in decent shape. So it's complete. It's got even the logo and stuff like that with the fogs, with the wiring, everything like that. So it's all looking good. It just like I said, it's harder to get parts quick for this type of build. It's really nice if you have a parts car on site, that way you can just assemble it faster. But you know, like this little pulley here was missing, and it's just the idle pulley, and it's like a couple $100 from the dealer, you know, and it took a week to get. So I actually have that in as well, so I can put the belts on, and you know, the whole front is just gonna start getting put together, possibly the fenders and everything like that. So let's get to work. As you can see, I have this temporary transmission mount, which is a strap and a piece of wood, a 2x4, just kind of holding it in place. The drive shaft is up here. It's not bolted in yet, but I'm gonna do that and put the transmission up. Since the new bracket came with the new mount, I'm just gonna go ahead and put the new assembly on and just save this for later, or if anybody needs it, I have a good transmission mount only for the 2020 and GT500. Then I have the stock cats that'll go in place, and these were the lines that we were missing, but we actually have them now, so we can go ahead and run this thing once everything's connected. This topside creeper is actually a multi-use tool. Whether you need to support your transmission or hang your exhaust system off of it, it's there for you, and it's adjustable, and it's great. So I actually had to lower the rear exhaust section so I could get the drive shaft back in there properly, because it's a very tight fit, and this drive shaft is like $3 grand. I do not want to damage it, so I'm gonna put this up there and then put the exhaust back up, and then transmission up it goes, and then we'll get onto the front of the vehicle. So I actually don't have a transmission jack here, so I'm gonna go ahead and do something sketchy. I'm gonna basically just lower the car on this. So as I lower the car, the transmission should go off it. And those bolts actually line up perfect with the new bracket finally. So I'm able to just get them started, and the transmission officially is going to be bolted up. Isn't it nice when you have the right parts and they actually fit? What's not nice is this took 3 weeks to get. And I'm not blaming anybody, but I think they just, Ford or Shelby, whoever made a mistake, and the part number is not correct in their system. So when you look up this part on this VIN number, they actually have the GT350 part, and that's a problem. Yeah, they look almost the same. It's just these holes are like 1.5 inches off. So at one point we were just like, maybe the engine's not in its place, but you can't not have it in place. It's sitting on the mounts on the subframe, so you can't mess that up. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these up, So it's always a good idea to replace your bolts, especially on things that spin, like a drive shaft or anything suspension wise, I guess, and it's best to replace. So we ended up buying all new bolts and brackets. They come in a pack like that with the bracket attached. So the front 6 bolts and the rear 6 bolts, they're a little bit different. The brackets are different size. I think the bolts are the same, but the brackets are different. So looks like the ones with the blue Loctite is actually the rears, and the green is the fronts, and the brackets also are like a light green color, so that those will go in the front. So I ended up taking the exhaust completely off the vehicle because it was easier to get to all the bolts all the way around on the drive shaft, and actually the transmission is completely mounted to the vehicle. Everything is torqued. It's looking good. So next I guess I can put well, maybe I should put the cats on first. Stock cats back in. There we go, just like that. We got the stock exhaust back up. So there's a couple shields I think I'm still missing. I think that there's supposed to be a shield between this X pipe here and the drive shaft, and I'm missing that shield, so I'm gonna have to remove this one more time because I don't think I'll be able to feed the shield above it. But I don't have it, and I want to make this car run and drive. That way it can go to paint and they don't have to push it around. They can actually start it and drive it. So I think I'm done underneath. I'm gonna go ahead and lower the car and put the belts on and coolers. Still can't believe this pulley here was like 200 bucks. It's just the idle pulley, and supposedly comes with the belt. I mean, with the belt, with the bolt. And there it is. It's one expensive idle pulley, 200 bucks. Canada. There's a part number. So it just bolts up over here. Looks like I gotta remove the water pump pulley off again, and I'm guessing that's why they had the water pump pulley removed, is because they needed this pulley in a different car. So they removed the water pump pulley and then got this and never reinstalled the water pump pulley. So I gotta take the water pump pulley back off. I'm thinking I should route the supercharger or serpentine belt before I put the water pump pulley back on, because it'll give me more room to play with. So there's the part number for a stock supercharger belt for a 2020 and up GT500. How it's routed, I don't know, but I'm just gonna see if I can figure it out. If not, I'll pull up a diagram. Alright. Didn't even have to look up the diagram. Supercharger and the AC belt is on, and then there's a separate belt to run the alternator, which I still have to connect. There's a plug and a wire that needs to be connected. It looks like I can just take this whole assembly and just set it in there. Let me see how everything fits. Seems like it's all good. This wire stays up front. It goes on the reinforcement, so that's good. I want to go ahead and install the transmission cooler, just so I can have this thing running and driving, at least in the parking lot. So I'm gonna go get the cooler and see how that goes. So it actually looks like the cooler bolts onto these bolts here, and the way the lines are, they go behind this whole other cooler assembly. So I think I'm gonna have to pull this back out and install that cooler first, and then reinstall this. So I gotta go backwards a little bit, but that's okay, because that's just how it is. That's how you figure where everything is. You know, I don't have like a manual or anything. I'm just kind of piecing the stuff together as I go. So, I mean, it's getting close. Looks like it just hooks up and then just chills like this. So weird, but I'm also gonna blow through it because it's kind of stuffed with like bugs. What a mess. But to me, it looks like I have enough stuff connected once again to crank this thing up. One thing I'm not sure is about the GT500 is I think there's supposed to be another bottle for the cooling for the supercharger. So it's a separate bottle. I'm guessing it goes somewhere over here, because I have this and the hose is labeled bottle. So all of this is connected. This is a new tank here. All the hoses are hooked up except the cooler that we're missing here, which is no problem because I can just straight pipe it there and have it drivable if I really wanted to. So that's fine, I can connect that. Another problem, I'm still missing a hose from the firewall heater core to here, I believe. So it's a long hose and I'm completely missing that one. So the cooling system is not 100%, but I have pretty much everything connected underneath. As far as the supercharger cooling pump under there is all connected. So at this point, since I have everything plugged in, I can go ahead and connect the battery, and I think I can crank it. So I'll crank it, I'll run it for 20-30 seconds, make sure it runs good. Again, I'm still missing like the EVAP line and to the brake booster line, and I need to get the proper fuel line, but I've basically cut that restrictor out that I mentioned earlier and just connected it that way. So it's got fuel, it should start and it should idle. It's got oil in it, so I guess there's only one thing left to do is connect this battery, which I'm still missing a negative terminal for some reason, so I use the vise to connect the battery. Okay, got the battery plugged in. Most of the stuff's connected that needs to be connected, except headlights and the horn and stuff like that. Wipers are not in yet, but right now we should be able to start it and let it idle. So let's see what happens. Brake fault. Okay, let's see. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is release this and it should start right now. Let's see. Well, this thing started right up and it's running great. I didn't run it long, ran it for about 10-20 seconds, maybe 30 at the most, because the cooling is not finalized. But this is a good sign, because now all I have to do is assemble it enough to where we can take it to the paint shop and get it sprayed. The whole front end will be sprayed, and then it's going to get blended onto the doors, I believe. So I'm going to remove stuff like the mirrors, I think, here, and then assemble the whole front end, including the bumper, and then take it off the paint. So it's getting close. There's still little stuff here and there that's missing, but it's much closer than it was a few weeks ago. So stay tuned, and later.